Everyone loves a cheat meal or an overindulgence of food from time to time. After all, we are human. Some of the best tasting food are actually some of the worst in terms of fat and calories. But don't worry. You don't have to resort to living like Tom Hanks in Castaway. There are plenty of food that you can turn to that taste amazing and won't jeopardize your well-being. It's about learning why certain food are bad, so you can make better choices on a day-to-day basis. That being said, here are some dietary landmines to watch out for, and step around. A new study published in the journal Preventing Chronic Disease revealed that 84% of packaged food that listed 0 grams trans fat on their nutrition facts label still had partially hydrogenated oil, the main dietary source of trans fat in the ingredient list. Current laws allow companies to round down fewer than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving to zero. The good news? The amount of trans fat we eat has dropped in the past 30 years, according to a recent study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. Men are consuming 32% less trans fat, and women 35% less, than they were in 1980. Still, 1.9% of men's daily calories and 1.7% of women's daily calories come from trans fat today. The American Heart Association recommends limiting trans fats to no more than 1% of total calories consumed. Even a few daily grams of these fats increase bad cholesterol, decrease good cholesterol, and clog arteries, and Harvard researchers estimate that trans fats cause up to 228,000 cases of heart disease and 50,000 deaths annually. Since 2 grams is the most you should have in a day, allowing food with 0.5 gram or less to call themselves trans fat-free is a real problem. You're best off avoiding trans fat-containing food completely. Half a gram of trans fat in creamer can quickly turn into multiple, since consumers tend to use more than the serving size of a teaspoon per cup, and the typical American coffee drinker guzzles an average of 3 cups of Joe per day. On many zero trans fat labels, you can find partially hydrogenated oils as the second or third ingredient listed. Some companies use partially hydrogenated oils to achieve a long shelf life and creamy texture, so check the label. To be safe, opt for the natural variety. Although it's chunkier, it's also healthier and normally made with just salt and peanuts, not oils loaded with trans fat. Trans fat sneaks into the dough of many frozen pizzas, with about 0.3 grams in just one slice. San Diego mother of 2 Katie Simpson sued Nestle for $5 million last year over the use of trans fat in its frozen pizzas sold by DiGiorno, Stouffer's, and California Pizza Kitchen. The case was dismissed since she knowingly purchased and consumed the pizza. One solution? Make your own pie at home. #popcorn. It's your Friday night movie staple, but microwavable popcorn puts the spotlight on trans fats. The true culprits are toppings. Butter flavoring can include 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving, while caramel flavoring can contain as many as 1.5 grams. Some extra buttery varieties can have up to 15 grams of trans fat per bag, which is all too easy to inhale in one sitting. Stay away from the microwave popcorn, says Napoli. Just do the old-fashioned air pop or use an actual oil to pop the kernels in. Even the beloved Girl Scout cookies still sneak some trans fat in, despite a label that says trans fat-free. You may be able to justify those because they only happen a few times per year, but check to see if your favorite store-bought cookies are made with partially hydrogenated cooking oils. Chances are they are including Chips Ahoy and Keebler, although some brands like Oreos now use high oleic oils instead so they can provide shelf-stable cookies at a reasonable cost. Margarine consumption boomed during the butter shortages of World War II, with even Eleanor Roosevelt promoting it as her toast topping of choice. But it's a recipe for trans fat overload. To create that creamy spread, liquid vegetable oils are blasted with hydrogen. The more solid the margarine, the more it's been hydrogenated. Many labels claim to have 0 grams of trans fat, but if the label lists partially hydrogenated oils, those small amounts of trans fat can add up when you slather margarine on your food. High fructose corn syrup, HFCS. This is an ingredient that didn't exist before 1960, but has a strong appeal to food manufacturers because it's so very sweet, cheap to make, and easy to store. According to David Zincinko in the ABS diet, the human body doesn't have a shut-off switch for HFCS the way it does with real sugar. This leads us to keep drinking a cola or eating sweet treats long after we would have stopped if they were naturally sweetened. Those who pay attention to what they eat may have noticed high fructose corn syrup creeping into an alarming number of food in the supermarket aisle. Corn subsidies and other trends have pushed this relatively unhealthy substance into many of the general food groups that we shop for on a regular basis. Here are some of the popular food and drink items that contain high fructose corn syrup, an element with a lot of sugar that has been known to contribute to diabetes and other conditions when eaten in excess. It's no surprise to most of us that soda is chock full of high fructose corn syrup. To those who aren't used to the drink, the stuff can be almost sickeningly sweet. Even diet varieties can have a large amount of this sweetener. Add the fact that soda machines can be found on the street corner, in the lobbies of buildings, and in almost any public area. Therefore, this shows that obesity and sugar-related conditions are seen as a worldwide issue.